We're talking with Bert Smith, who is a member of the Hall of Fame class for the Michigan High School Lacrosse Coaches Association, the class of 2009. Bert, first of all, thank you for taking the time.
You're great.
You are the first referee we have interviewed in this series of discussions on history of conversation with lacrosse. So first of all, welcome.
Thank you.
And appreciate you taking the time.
Happy to be here.
The first question I ask is really pretty simple. For you, where did it all start? I know you said 1969, so maybe you can start us in the beginning.
Now, my lacrosse story, which I wrote up a couple of years ago, is that in '69, our high school, this is back in West Hartford, Connecticut, two high schools in town, Conard High School, or Hall High School. I was going to Hall High School. Conard had a guy over there who was from upstate New York, wanted to start a lacrosse team. And he said, well, you can have a team as long as Hall has a team. So they went to our high school and said, who wants to coach? Doc Diver lifted his hand and said, I'll be the coach. And he started coaching the team. My only experience with lacrosse had been in gym class with these 20-year-old sticks that had no pockets, trying to play catch back and forth. And forget that. But one of my friends went out for the lacrosse team. He says, hey, you want to play lacrosse? I said, no way. He says, we have pinups in the locker room. Now, this is 1969, mind you, when National Geographic was the height of porn and all.
Or the Sears catalog.
Yeah, exactly. And so I was like, let me see. Well, he stood in the door. He says, players only. I'll play. So I got a defense stick, started playing defense. 2 weeks later, the coach found out about the pictures, ripped out of lockers, so that was done. But by then I was playing lacrosse and almost 50. Actually, this is my 50th year of playing the game now.
I'm curious about Connecticut. You mentioned, as we talked before, that lacrosse wasn't a huge sport in Connecticut.
It was big in the prep schools. At the time we started our team in '69, Wilton was a public school. That was the only public school. Everybody else were the prep schools. So we started our team. It was against Wilton, a couple games against Conard, against all the prep schools. So I learned a lot about good sportsmanship in high school, mainly because we never won a game. In 3 years, we were 0 for 3 years.
The reason I'm asking the question is that you think with Connecticut being with East Coast and New Jersey and Long Island and all the rest of it, which was a huge hotbed even in those days for lacrosse, that I guess Connecticut was just to sort of have a step right behind.
It was kind of in between there. I was surprised that it wasn't bigger there. But again, it was big in the prep schools, and from there I went to UConn. And the good thing was, having played the game when I got to UConn, I was the second freshman to get called up to varsity. Like one of our defense captains got injured, so I got the call up. So I was the second freshman to play varsity lacrosse at UConn. Our goalie was the first one. I also point out that was the first year a freshman could play varsity lacrosse. So I played at UConn and 3 years there, had a great time. And,
what was the good part of being in Connecticut? Just you're a hometown boy, kind of. I mean, same state, kind of no difference.
The reason I went to UConn, I still had my bill for my first semester of school, and it was everything except for my food. So it's my room, the university tuition, $750.
Wow.
For a semester, $750 for your room and tuition. It was
you can't even buy a book. Some of those books now for $750.
So that's why I went to UConn. I didn't.
You played defense.
Yeah, played D.
Why there over maybe other positions? You just like defense?
Probably a stick I pull out of a pile or whatever, and it was. I probably like to hit people with it.
Did you play other sports in high school?
I would play. I was a gym rat, so I missed out. We moved to the town where I was in my sophomore year, and I wanted to go out for football. I didn't realize they had spring or summer practice, so by the time I got to school, the team was already made, so I never went out for football after that. But I would have enjoyed that.
Was the bite of lacrosse, as we talk about guys biting and just it's all encompassing?
Yeah.
Was it that way then for you?
It was, once I got that stick, first of all, you learn how to make a stick, because you didn't have a pocket then. You had to make your pocket with jelly jars and neat's foot oil in your gloves for stiff. You had to get the neat's foot oil in them. So that was all part of the attraction. But I used to go out at lunch and I used to throw against the wall. I was one of those wall guys. And I got the unfortunate thing, learning to play then with my D stick, is I got good at underhand shots and all this, but I was a one-handed player. So when I came to Michigan, I only had a right hand. I could run left, but I was not what you call. I was going to kill somebody with my left hand.
Right.
So later on, we had our club team here in Grand Rapids, and we had nobody who could really handle the ball that well. I said, I'll play attack. Great story. First game I ever played attack was at Michigan, on their turf next to Osterbahn there, and the defenseman covering me is Dana Friend. And every time I got the ball, I would take 2 steps, and the ball would be on the ground. I'd be like, eh. Then I found out what Dana was like a really good player from Ohio State. But
And also the other referee who made the Hall of Fame for the Michigan High
Yes,
School Lacrosse
yes,
Coaches Association. So
Dana.
that's a small world that it is.
yeah. One of my other great stories about reffing here in Michigan is I did the first state championship. And the crew on the field was myself, Dana Friend, and Bob Bowery. We all know Bob very well. And we had a guy named Jim Busan in the box. And this was the first state final, and it was Jesuit against Brother Rice. And I remember looking at the clock, and it's now ticking under 7 minutes. And Jesuit is up by 6 goals, 10-6. And I'm thinking, they just have to hold on. They had the biggest upset in Michigan history if they hold on here. And over the next few minutes, Brother Rice actually came down, shot and scored. And so now it's a 3-goal game. On the next face-off, the guy's scooping up the ball, and I called the push with possession, 30 seconds. So now the guy's in the box. Brother Rice is attacking. The player in the box, somehow with his coach, lets out a rather loud F-bomb. With the official standing right behind him there, who's like, well, I'm an official, he throws the flag. So now you have a sportsmanlike conduct on it. Brother Rice scores, still the man in the box. They win the next face-off, they come in and take a shot. The ball goes off the end line, and on the trail, and I can just see it's going out. Dana's indicating it's going to stay with Brother Rice. He's the lead. And the Jesuit defenseman comes up, and his arms are going like this. He's going towards Dana, and all of a sudden the flag comes out for another penalty. So now they're another man down, and they give another goal, and they end up losing 11-10 to Brother Rice. And they
Sean Leary's team.
And I don't know if he was coaching then. I'm not sure if he was coaching.
Maybe it wasn't Sean.
But I think that was pre him.
Okay.
Anyways, we're in the locker room after the game, and I say to Dana, I said, well, Dana, what happened down there? I couldn't hear anything. He goes, at that point in the game, I would take one, you suck. But on the third one, I threw the flag. And the sad thing is, it was one of their senior captains that lost it, and they had that game. That would have stopped the Brother Rice train before it even started, and that was year 1. So I think since then I've probably done 8 or 9 state championships.
Let me back you up.
Yeah.
From Connecticut. You graduated. You've got this lacrosse background. You end up coming back to Michigan, and it's a rather unique story. You came back to Michigan because of women's underwear.
Yes, that was the story I tell. A lot of these stories you'll hear before, the versions of pornography with the pinups there. But
Right.
out of college, I have a degree in genetics and cellular biology, minor in organic chemistry, because I like science. But what am I going to do for a job? And a friend.
What would you do? I'm curious. Be a
to
biologist?
Go to med school,
Okay.
become a lab guy, and I actually spent a semester in college at this program where I could actually intern, and I going to a health clinic, and I went into the first day, and I walked out of the first day and I never went back. I realized I hate being around sick people and sad people and crying people. Most people know me. My nickname in high school was Smiling Albie. I don't know where that name comes from, but I hated it. So I abandoned that, and a friend said, you ought to go into sales.
The disdain for sick people is probably not a good thing for medicine.
Yeah, exactly. And so I faint at the sight of blood.
So a right hand turned into sales.
So sales, and I interviewed with a company called Warner's Incorporated out of Bridgeport, Connecticut, and actually got the job with them after several rounds of interview. And they said, okay, April 1st, be in Michigan.
Where?
Michigan, wherever. My state was my territory.
Oh,
except for
okay.
Detroit.
Okay.
I was going to be calling on department stores.
Right.
By the Warner's is a lingerie company, so if you're familiar with Playtex and Maidenform and those,
Okay.
Warner's is an old-time
So this
lingerie
is
company.
76, 77?
This would have been 77. Yep,
Okay.
July 77. I
So
started.
you move up. Are you married at the time?
No. Single guy, 25-year-old guy
Just
with
pick-
a bag full of bras and panties, heading out to the Midwest,
So where did you end up to start with?
And so I moved to Grand Rapids, and
Okay, that needs explanation. Why here versus other places?
the rep I was taking over for, because I had outstate Michigan. There was a rep that covered Hudson's, which was the huge department
Right.
store in Detroit. He had Hudson's, I had everything else, and I had to support his stores too and help him with those. But the other guy lived in Kalamazoo, and the only person I even knew from Michigan, her family was from Grand Rapids.
Okay.
So I thought, well, check this out.
Made sense.
And when I moved here, I asked several people, where should I live? And Ramblewood was the place. Ramblewood. It's the closest thing to an adult dormitory complex you can imagine. in the best way. I mean, open parties, just friendly people, and just a great time. And from that group,
Point out that this is the disco era, so life was a
yes,
little different.
yes, it was. But from that group of friends that developed, we get together at Christmas with a group of 8 couples that all met, back 40 years ago at Ramblewood, back when its nickname was Sin City and Scramble Beds and all that. But it was just a great complex, a lot to do, and used to play catch. So I brought my sticks with me, and my roommate and I would play catch, and I never thought about lacrosse, having a team here. And there was an article in a newspaper one day that when I actually had printed paper, it said, lacrosse to get started in city is club sport. I can still remember that headline. And I was like, I jumped out of it. It was like, wow, and there were 2 names listed. A gentleman named Mike Campbell, my best friend and partner, and really the founder of the Grand Rapids Lacrosse Club. He was the one that played at Michigan, wanted to keep playing, and he also got a guy named John Corbett who had played at Michigan to start the team here. Well, the 2 names listed, I called John Corbett. And John Corbett is about the excitement level of a turtle. Hello? Hey, I see you got a game. I played a... Oh, yeah. Oh, that's good. How? I was so bummed, but I went to that first get-together. There were 40 guys there. A couple lines, throwing and passing and catching, and so Mike and I really became the guardian angel of the team. We would mark the field, we'd make the calls on Saturday.
The level of numbers of teams wasn't that big.
If I could bring out our program from 1984, we actually had a program. We played Michigan State's club team, we played Notre Dame, we played Albion College twice a year, we played Western Michigan, Calvin College. Hope College was our first game ever. And they beat us that first game, and I really resented that. They never beat us again after all those years. But sorry, Mike Shainholtz. So anyways, we used to play all the college teams. That's all there really was. Kalamazoo had a club team and a college team, but other than that, it was all club. Detroit, we used to play Detroit. Graham Adams, and the Martinello brothers, and
well, you mentioned Mike Shannels. We should mention he's the current Hope coach, but used to be the East Grand Rapids coach.
Yeah, but in their first years. I think he brought in their first state championship.
Yeah, Mike's been up at Hope now, I think 8 or 9 years, 7 or 8 years.
And just made the NCAA tournament this year, which was great. And what was really great is he did that the year his son was a senior goalie for him. So to finally make the NCAA tournament with his son in there, to me that's poetic justice.
2 of his starting defensemen played for me at Oxford. So we have a slight connection from that.
So Mike Shainholtz, back a couple of years ago, he got the Ace Adams Award, which is a sportsmanship award voted on by the officials. So around the country, Hope College and Mike Shainholtz got that award, which was totally deserving. He is the classiest guy out there.
Now, how long did you play for Grand Rapids club team?
So we started the team in '81, and it was great. Over the years, we got really good at finding players. So all of a sudden, this guy came to town. He's working in town, named Justin Shea, and he was a captain defenseman at Notre Dame, in all Midwest. While he's in town, he's playing for us, and he is the most competitive, aggressive. When I was reffing his games, I'd chase him down the field. He'd have his stick over his head like this, chasing some middy, and I'm like, nothing good is going to come from this. And they would just kind of whack. Sometimes I have to throw a flag. But so Justin played for us. Then another guy was in town, and he was helping Rich Kimball at Michigan State as assistant coach. His name was Blaine Harrison, and Blaine happened to play for the Canadian World Cup team. So we got Blaine to play for us, which was a lot of fun. And one of my favorite lacrosse stories, my most satisfying lacrosse story from my career, is we had played Northwood. They were just having their club team, and they came down to Grand Rapids, and a lot of guys were missing, and we're playing this lousy field, and I'm next to this guy. He's elbowing me, hey old man, and I was like 40, old man. So it just annoyed the heck out of me, and they beat us that game. It's like, if we had our players, we'd have taken you to the cleaners. So the next year we go to Northwood to play, and we have Justin playing with us. We have Blaine on our team. We only had 9 guys when we got there. And we started the game with 9, and it happened to be Northwood's senior night. It was their senior day. Oh, and Ron Hebert's now coaching there. And he's trying to develop it to a varsity program on their senior day. And these 9 guys, 2 showed up later on, so we had 11, but 2 of them were really stud players. And I remember Hebert on the sideline yelling, "You're letting these old men beat you! You're letting these old men beat you!" It was classic. And so we won the game. I can remember sitting in a subway in like St. Louis, Michigan going, I can die a happy man now. It was to get that revenge. I know that really felt vengeful was, hey, young man.
When did you hang him up as a player? How old?
So, well, I'm still playing now. So what?
You are? Wow.
So what happened was in '95, I took a job transfer and went up to Minnesota, to Minneapolis, and reffed up there. But I stopped playing. I didn't know anybody there, so I just started reffing, and had 5 years up there, which was great. Came back and was primarily reffing. Lacrosse had taken off. We had so many games to cover, so I was reffing full time. I wasn't playing. I'd kind of gotten out of the playing. The assigner, a guy named Jeff Sides, passed away very unexpectedly. Pancreatic cancer took him out in 3 weeks from when he diagnosed. It was unbelievable. So he called. So I'm in the hospital a week before he passed and said, "Can you do the assigning?" So I took over the assigning for a season. I found out what a joy that is. I mean, there was about 800 games to assign, and I thought that was a lot. And it's way beyond that for Brett Svacha and Bill Schmidt now to do all their games. Anyways, that's when I assigned and did that, and then just gave that up for a couple of years, and I've been reffing until, I'm going to say 3 years ago. And a friend of mine, they started playing indoors. They were having an indoor thing, just like on a hockey rink kind of drop-in thing. And
box.
My friend Mike. It wasn't really box goalie stuff, but it was just indoors, with short sticks. But Mike Campbell was going to play, and I said, what the heck? So I took the stuff out there, went out there. And one thing I can tell you is playing the game is a lot harder than reffing a game. I would do 2 sprints up and down that field. I'd come off gasping for air, take the helmet off. And it got a little better. But one of my teammates said, "Hey, there's an indoor tournament down in Columbus. Do you want to play?" What the heck, And so what it was guys from Grand Rapids hooking up with guys from Toledo, Hal Hamer and his crew from Toledo. If you know Hal, Hal was playing before I was playing. And some other guys from Columbus, we got together down there and played this indoor tournament.
Is this an age group level team?
It was 35 and over.
Okay.
Let me
You're well over 35.
I was and I found that out when I was down there, man. And you thought, this is not fair, But at the tournament, Hal Hamer says, "Hey, do you want to play in Lake Placid?" Lake Placid, that's that all-star stuff. You go, no, they got these tournaments. They're all age-bracketed tournaments. What the heck? Sure, I'll do that. So I went out 3 years ago, went out to Lake Placid with Hal, and our team is called the Grateful Undead.
Oh, God.
And this was 60 and over, so it was great. And we just had our last tournament in Florida. There were 10 teams of 60 and over guys. So there's close to 200 old fogies running around with sticks. As one of my teammates said, it's real lacrosse. It's just a lot slower. And there's no...
for obvious reason.
And if you watch it, it's like watching 5th, 6th grade lacrosse because they're really slow. They can't pass and catch. They drop the ball. If somebody could pick up a ground ball, they'd be a hero here, And
like little kids soccer, just spread out.
But they do allow stick checking, and let me tell you, those guys know how to throw stick checks. I mean, it was. Matter of fact, this last tournament, for a ground ball, this guy checks me on my knee. I mean, hard. I mean, drew blood. I'm like, ow! So he's running away. I took my stick and I threw it at him. Kind of a sportsmanlike conduct penalty.
You're using modern equipment, right?
Oh yeah.
Today?
I got a nice Cascade helmet and all that. I still have a wooden stick I can use.
Well, I can't really ask some sort of exit questions about your playing career because you're still playing.
Yeah, so I'm still enjoying it. That was just 3 years ago. So I had a hiatus there from 95 until 4 years ago.
You're married with a wonderful family. Yeah. What do you say to your wife when you're 61, 2 or 3 years old and you're going to still play lacrosse again? What does she say?
I knew my wife when we first started the lacrosse team, and she was our scorekeeper. So Therese Smith still has the award as the outstanding scorekeeper in the Midwest. And she loved the game. She'd come to the games, she'd do all the ground balls and clears. I mean, she was the best. And after 40 years of marriage now, we got married in 40 years coming up here.
Right.
Yeah, it's sorry, I lost my train of thought. So 40 years, she knows how much lacrosse means to me. She knows this is my life, and she's come to accept the fact, maybe a little grudgingly lately, that in the springtime she's not going to see me, because reffing right now, when it's major, during the season, March, April, May, especially April and May, I'm usually out 6 nights a week reffing.
Right.
So
let me back up all the way to that first time somebody says, "Here's a whistle."
yeah.
Where does it start, and what in the world what was your first thoughts when you started?
Well, the reason I started, first of all, lacrosse wasn't all that sophisticated, so not that big a deal.
Now, you had never officiated any other sports.
No reffing.
So this was a first-time endeavor.
And what happened when we started our club team, our referees were coming out of Chicago. So you can imagine, and Dick Bauerschmidt, a guy named Barney Bauerschmidt, was the assigner. So I knew Barney, and he called. He says, these guys, they don't want to drive from Chicago to do a club game, which paid probably not even $15 back then. And so he says, "Bert, you got to start reffing." So okay. So he would put on a training class. We'd go down to Notre Dame and he'd take the meeting room there, and Barney would do a training class. The good thing was I knew the game. I kind of knew the game pretty well, but the whole mechanics thing is all, it was all new. So the first time you go out there, it's like, this is a lot harder than it looks. Because when you're playing a game, you can almost see everything. When you're a ref and you're having to watch both teams and it's just a lot different. And I love taking players that know the game out there to ref, because invariably that's a lot harder than it looks. And part of it too is that if you're doing it well, you make it look easy. Things are just happening automatically, but you have to know where to go, where to be, what to watch for, when to throw the whistle, when to hold it. So,
well, I think of the officiating of the game, and I think about game management, which
Huge.
is a whole different.
Huge.
Now it's making sure the coaches have information, or somebody's not. Those kinds of things.
And I probably learned the most about game management from Brian Effinger. Brian Effinger is probably my biggest mentor as an official. Brian is, the best trainer for officials in the state. He takes it so seriously. He's passionate about it, and he's really, really good. And game management, it's learning to call. And one thing I've learned over the years is you call the safety fouls. If it's a foul, you got to call the foul. Call the fouls where an advantage is gained. And probably the biggest one that people have a hard time with is a push. Because a push in the field, if I push you in the field and you don't fall down, I may hold the whistle because no advantage was gained. You kept running, we're not going to maybe call the flag. But that same push of a player on the sideline, where I now push you out of bounds, I push you in the back, which is illegal. You now step out of bounds. For an official to take the ball away from the guy that's deserving of having a penalty called in his behalf, that's a double mess up. So I always watch my new guys to make sure that they're watching the pushes, because everybody on the sideline, as the guy's running up the sideline, the guy with the ball is running, they're all yelling, "Push him out, push him out." And I'm trailing along behind saying, "Don't do it in the back." And when they do, a flag comes out, everybody yells, but it's the right call. So you have to call those advantage calls. And the last one is you call the fouls that everybody sees. If they're up in the third deck and they can see that foul, you better call it. But other than that, maybe you don't need to call it. So you learn to officiate at the level. How I call a college game is a lot different than I'll call a junior varsity game.
Right.
And it's that feel that's hard. And if you don't know the game, it's hard to have that feel for, well, what's the game and what's a penalty, And that's
The art of not blowing the whistle.
Yeah.
Really
When to hold the whistle.
is the sport.
And in my mind, I feel I've gotten better at that over the years. The last 2 years, I feel like my legs have slowed down, but I think I have really good game management skills.
So you started doing club stuff.
Yeah.
When did the idea of starting to do it high school stuff? When did that start?
Well, because at the time we started reffing, we didn't have high school. So maybe back up even further. Back the first couple of years, our guardian angel of lacrosse in West Michigan, another Hall of Fame member, is Tom Mitchell. We should be mentioning Tom Mitchell here because he's in my whole bio. When Mike was starting the team, he got a list from Lacrosse Foundation of members. So he called all those people and said, hey, we're starting a lacrosse team. Do you want to play? He got hold of Tom Mitchell. Hey, do you want to play? And Tom starts laughing. He says, well, I can't really play anymore, but I'm willing to help out. Tom was an All-American at Penn State in 1943.
Okay, so
his playing days were a little past.
Yeah, I say that's 20 years on us.
But then he became our coach,
Okay.
and he never let us say this, but he was our guardian. He would give us $1,000 every year, which is our budget that paid the referees.
Right.
Tom did that every year, and so he had a grandson who wanted to start playing lacrosse. There wasn't any. So he went to East Grand Rapids rec department schools, and they started an indoor STX ball thing one year. After we had 2 weeks of that, the sprinklers went off in a gymnasium, destroyed the gym. The floor was like a wave, and so that ended it. But then the next year they started a field team over in Forest Hills.
East Grand Rapids, the first team in Grand Rapids, the first team.
Actually, let's just say it. So the first real team was Forest Hills. The Engels family, Jamie Engels and his family, started the Forest Hills program, and then the next year East Grand Rapids started. Then Rick Morris was the first coach, but that was it. So those first years of East Grand Rapids and Forest Hills, they'd play each other at least twice a year, and I was the ref. And
a little bit like Traverse City with even 5 years ago when you had two teams and you look at the schedule and they played each other 4 or 5 times because travel was just too much travel.
The unfortunate thing is Traverse City didn't have a referee like me, so they suffered up there.
So did you kind of, I guess then you started with high school when as Grand Rapids started to expand.
Yeah, and so I did that for 10 years. There were only 2 schools for 10 years. When I moved away in '95 to Minnesota, when I came back, it had exploded. Andy Sharp was an East Grand Rapids grad. He started Rockford, got Rockford going. The biggest thing was I moved back to town, driving around town, all of a sudden there are lacrosse goals in people's front yards. It's like, what the heck is going on here?
So it changed in the time you were gone.
In that 5 years, it really took off.
So that's when you picked back up with high school.
And then I came back. I just became full-time ref and started reffing high school, college, club, whatever, wherever there was a game.
What level college do you do right now?
I'll do basically a D3. Well, we don't really have it as D3. Years ago, I've done Notre Dame. So I've done Notre Dame. Did Michigan State against Air Force when they were here. That was a lot of fun. But now it's like MIAA is primarily my thing.
So are you? What you're in year 50 for officiating?
I started in 84. So I say this is my 35th year of reffing.
Okay.
But 50th year of playing, which is pretty amazing.
I did not know Bert Smith until I went to St. Mary's as a coach.
Oh yeah.
And I've been like we were talking earlier, I've been a registered official since I think 71.
Yeah.
I did not know Bert Smith until we came to East Grand Rapids to play when I was at Orchard Lake St. Mary's, and you're the dean, obviously, of officials.
I mentioned it beforehand, but yeah.
On this side of town, and I didn't know who you were, and then again, I'm going back probably now 15 years.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, it's like, wow, why isn't he working on our side of the state? You were a very good official.
Oh, good. I appreciate that.
That's something I think it's important. You don't make the Hall of Fame unless you hopefully have some success.
Well, the Hall of Fame Hall of Fame was from Mike Costello, but the one I really liked was the Youth Official of the Year award I got from U.S. Lacrosse because
2009.
2009.
Explain that.
So the same year I got into the Coaches Hall of Fame. What happened was I do a lot of youth ball, and I realized one of the big problems in youth ball is that people are not calling body checking appropriately. They're not calling the takeout checks. They let too much go. And the whole point of youth ball is to teach kids how to play the game without the fear that you're going to get run over by that guy over there. You can stand them up, but no takeout checks. And so my process now, the last 5 years with my middle school games, is I go to both coaches and I say, are you familiar with the rules regarding middle school lacrosse? No takeout checks. That means you cannot lower your head or shoulder and hit that guy with the force or intent to put him on the ground. Okay? But the big change I've made that has really made the biggest difference in my youth officiating is I talk to the coach and say, before we start the game, after you have your little rah-rah by the benches, come together by the sub box. I just want to talk to both teams. So I get both teams together, the coaches are behind, often the parents are behind them, and I explain, middle school lacrosse, there are no takeout checks. You cannot lower your head or shoulder, hit him with the force or intent to put him on the ground. All good. I kind of demonstrate what a legal check would be. And I said, also, when the ball's on the ground, if you see the number of the guy on his back in front of you, don't push him.
Right.
That'll get rid of half of our calls in youth ball.
Right.
And I give that and say, let's go play lacrosse. And they're all like, okay. And they go out and they play. And I can see them when they're playing back up, and reach around. And I'll do a game where I'll have one push and a half of a youth game. And that's unbelievable to me.
A question right now, and I want to kind of back up and ask some officiating questions. Are we doing enough right now to control the aggression in lacrosse? And the follow-up to that would be, is that your responsibility or my responsibility or a shared responsibility? I say me being a coach and you being a referee, an official.
It's a shared responsibility.
Has to be, isn't it?
You have to coach the players the right way.
Right, exactly.
I'm going to call the game the way I'm going to call it. And again, it's all. There are some teams when you go out there very early on, it's obvious they are just headhunters. And so I'm going to crack down really hard on them. I can do two really good teams,
right,
and they can put some good hard checks on, but they recognize what's allowed. Or even with college. In college, there's good body checking in college, but they know what's going on, and they don't get up and they don't retaliate. The big thing is younger kids tend to get hit, and retaliation starts in. So if you don't get on it right away and stop it, it can spiral out of control.
The team we've used for years is meat squads. They're just meat squads.
Yeah.
And football players come out and think that they're just going to run people over until they realize that it's a speed and skill game. It has nothing to do with brawn. Hitting is the result of the game, not the game itself. Is that fair?
And if you take a shot, I will allow you a legal check, but that is a check delivered that's timely, legal in terms of below the neck, above the waist, and it is not excessive. You're looking, you can knock the guy to the ground, but don't put him into next week. And safety has become such a point of emphasis now, necessarily so, because it has got a little rougher. Even the girls' game, you're getting more guys coaching the girls' game, so that's getting a little rougher than it used to be. The traditionalists in women's lacrosse, they're not real happy with the way the game is going.
I coached the girls at state for 7 years,
Yeah.
and that's my first experience. I would tell you that girls play better than boys.
When I watched
in terms of catching and passing and those kinds of things.
With the sticks they have, when I watched East Grand Rapids play Rockford a couple of years ago, and they're making these long clearing passes, and they're catching them on a run, I'm like, you're good.
I use a variety of women's tools to coach boys now. With kids that are coming into the sport, with all of our youth kids, they're using women's sticks to learn how to catch and pass. Because you got to learn to use your hands. It's a simple thing, right?
Yeah.
And it's just that process. And when I went into the girls' sport, it was like you were bringing the man's version, and within a year, you realize it's watermelons and Ferraris. They're two different sports.
Yeah.
And that's the cool part.
And I tried to ref. I went to the women's reffing class one time because we need a ref. So it's like, hey, maybe I have a spare moment, I can do this. First of all, I didn't understand it. I never all these weird rules about in the sphere and covering, and I just felt I couldn't do a good job. Here's a really ironic story, though. I went to that training class, and I never did a game the whole season. I never had time. But I'm in Philadelphia. I got a phone call from Tom Ration. Hey, Bert, we need it. Can you do a women's playoff game? Tom, I've not reffed a game yet. Yeah, but I said maybe I could run the side and do the out of bounds and stuff. But I could support, but I could. You go, oh, well, you'd be alone. No, Tom, no, you don't want to do that. I couldn't believe he was going to have me do a playoff game.
No. Well, it comes back to the conversation. 2 years ago and 3 years ago, I was asked to do regional basketball finals and some football division semifinal stuff. I'd been out for 5 years. And Tom had mentioned, in this case, it was Mark Ewell.
All right.
Mark had mentioned that, by the way, even though you're gone 3 to 4 or 5 years, you've been gone, you're still better than the guys that are left to assign.
Right.
And these are big games that we want experience. We want some college guys, and we want to be able to have good officials because the numbers are dwindling.
Well,
as you know, 58% of the guys coaching are officiating in Michigan at this point are our age or older, or slightly older.
And you got back to, are we doing enough to control the hitting? And certain guys are. As you get more experience, they're getting better. The biggest challenge now, and it's true in every sport, is controlling the parents, the fans.
Barry Mano, who runs Referee Magazine, has been very clear that referees in general, the percentage of people that are afraid to officiate now is seem to be going up and up. Is it worse now than it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Do you ever worry about things like getting hit?
Yes. Yes, especially right now because I was president of our official association board, and I know our numbers are down, and MHSAA now has a mandate that you need somebody assigned as a recruiter, and I'm taking on that role. And so here's where I think the future is for lacrosse officials. You got to go to the teams. You got to go to the players that are playing the game and start talking to them when they're in high school and say, when you grow out, consider this. Or in the summertime, maybe you ref some summer tournaments. And in the early days, I've always been happy to train high school kids in my MHSA training class. I do it because that's the future. 5 years, they could be graduating from college. And others have sometimes resisted that, thinking, why waste your time? But any kernel, any seed I can plant in there that might lead you to 10 years down the road, say, hey, I want to ref lacrosse. That's what I'm looking for.
I had 38 years in as an official, and I finally stepped out. Somebody made an interesting analogy. If you didn't know anything about officiating, if I took you to the beach, and on a beautiful sunny day, I had to half submerge your head, and half the time you couldn't breathe, would you stay at the beach? And officiating has kind of got to be that.
Yeah.
You go not knowing what to expect. And I guess the point to it is, if you're 25 years old, would you go work for 2 hours for $60 and be abused?
Yeah, and get and they have to realize that, and some of the worst behavior is in a middle school game, in a tournament game, which is that's our farm system. That's where these guys are learning. They're gonna make mistakes, and the lack of knowledge on the sidelines is funny too, because I'm doing a tournament game or a summer tournament last year. And I look at the field going, they should be pretty happy with this. The 3 guys we had out there, all had done the state final. And of course, on the far side, ref, do you know this game at all? And you just laugh.
My last year at Oxford and now this past year at Skyline, I locked the gates and parents were not allowed to come to practice, both high school and middle school.
Oh, good. That's smart. Yeah.
I locked the gate. They could sit in the parking lot all they want. I was in Oxford practice 2 years ago, and I realized our kids were coached by high school kids.
Yeah.
We had about 80 kids between the 3 teams at Oxford.
That's a lot.
And we had 4 high school kids per team, so you had 12 high school kids out there. And I would stand and make sure everybody was. You had to go through me to get to the kids, but we wanted the middle school kids to have coaches that knew how to play the game, rather than dads who had no experience, which made sense to me.
Right.
And we were in an area where there was very limited parents. Long story short, I looked up one day and I see literally 150 parents sitting in their chairs for practices, doing the yelling.
Right.
I thought, when I was a kid, drive your bike up to the playground, we'd all play, go home. My dad was never there. And if we had a Little League game, my dad coached us, but everybody else got dropped off. They'd sit behind the band and they shut their mouth. So the point was, I banned them from coming to practice. And I swear to you, not every kid, a lot of kids go after about a week, God, this is really fun. Why? Because my mom and dad aren't here. The kids even noticed it.
And I don't know when that changed, because when I played in high school, they were never parents. I mean, it wasn't like something they did,
Right.
And even in college, when I was at UConn, my parents came and saw me play one time when I was in Hartford, because hometown, I was playing Trinity, but it just wasn't this, expectation. You go to the 3rd and 4th grade game, and it's the parents, the grandparents, and they all have their opinions if they.
We have parents' rules. The parents are not allowed to carry bags. The kids have to get their own water. It's almost like they're butlers.
And you need, they talk about having a sportsmanship manager on the sidelines for these games. And I remember that game I was talking about, the first state final, Tom Rashid's in the locker room saying, do you need an escort to the... Oh, so after Jesuit lost that game, the guy, whoever that was at Troy Athens, there's a back way out, so he takes us out, go over here. And the Jesuit team, they were at the fence going, come back here, you sons of bitches, you bastards. I thought it was going to be a prison break. So now we're in the locker room, and Tom comes in and he goes, that wasn't what I was expecting for the state final. Tom, we've done this before. He goes, well, you need an escort to the parking lot? Come on, no. But now, I'd probably think about that, getting somebody to walk. And you didn't used to have site managers and people throw people out. And
Do you remember Walt Keener at all? Kurt Keener was the basketball coach of the Detroit Country Day.
Oh.
When I came back from California, I was working the PSL, the public school league in
Okay.
Detroit. Somebody didn't like a call he made during a game. This is 1995 or 6. One of the kids that was on the basketball team walked up to him, put a gun in his chest, and killed him. I didn't officiate in the PSL for 2 more years. Now it was a weird. It wasn't typical.
Yeah.
I mean,
But still.
But the result of him, if he was home cooking a chicken, he wouldn't have. And I don't say that lightly because he lost his father, but it was directly related to a basketball game. That's nuts. So let me get off the modeling part of it. What makes a high school lacrosse official in your mind? What makes a good one?
Self-control, not learning to, instead of elevate every time a coach is yelling, take it down a level. They talk about how to manage stress like that. Just being able to operate under pressure. You'll see the deer in the headlights look. Sometimes it'll be from newness, but if they can't handle the pressure, they won't make it. And coaches can say a lot of stuff, and you have to learn to react appropriately.
What's the best part of being an official?
The view. You got the best seat on the field. There's nothing like. Here's the crease. I'm this far away. You see some great lacrosse out there, and I love to talk to them. I'll tell you, great save, goalie. Hey, good play. Way to go, defense. Way to hold on.
Maybe you can sum this up for me. In all of the years I officiated, not one time did I ever see anybody cheat. In all the years I officiated, I had bad officials, I had medium officials, I had great officials. Not one time did I ever see somebody cheat. Yet that's all I would ever hear from a conversation from my friends because, officials cheat.
Here's my favorite
Is that a fair statement?
Have you ever lost a game because of officials' call?
No.
Ask a room of officials or coaches. Oh yeah, I got a bad
Exactly.
call. Have you ever won a game because of a bad call? Oh no. There's a lot of games that are lost because of bad calls.
Exactly.
None has ever been won by a bad call.
Exactly.
Our team is better,
But I can honestly say I don't think there's ever been a time when somebody said let's make it up here, let's do that. You might be 12-0 on the fouls in a basketball game and say let's make sure the next one's a good one. That's a good. But those are just managerial things. But I've never. Anyway,
officiating is I love because it's kept me in a game. Although now playing with the Grateful Undead has been a lot of fun too. I actually scored 2 goals last year. Down in Florida, it was kind of fun. But now we live up by Meyer Gardens here, and we got a big yard, and we actually are the 3x3 field for all the lacrosse players in town. So every Wednesday, I have 6 to 8 kids, guys now, my age and younger, but they all come over and just play 3x with tennis balls and sticks in my yard.
Bucket lacrosse.
And go and play with them and have a beer, and it's the camaraderie, it's the fraternity of lacrosse, it's getting to know people over the years, the Sean Grady's, the Rich Kimball's, the Mike Jolly, who is without a doubt the classiest guy I've ever encountered in my time. And having stories with each of those guys. I've reffed Rich Kimball, and I played in Mike Jolly's last game he ever played in because he was going on vacation, and he came over with the Detroit team to play the Grand Rapids team at John Ball Park. And his wife said, okay. So he comes over and plays, and one of our defensemen, who was a Michigan State grad, broke his collarbone. So, sitting in the hospital room there with his wife was shooting daggers at him because their vacation just kind of got screwed up. So that was that story. And then Sean Grady playing with Sean, and then coaching or reffing his Okemos team. Classy guy, and Kimball, Coach Kimball. I love Rich.
Baseball is a subjective officiating process. Sometimes when the games are 10 goal runs apart, the strike zone gets bigger. How much subjectivity in lacrosse do you as an official exercise?
One of my favorite things is outside of black and white calls, maybe offsides or something, which sometimes, depending on the score, I might be looking upfield when the guy losing 20-1 stepped offside.
Right.
So you're part of that. Yeah, but my favorite thing is to point out to coaches that until you accept that every call we make is a subjective call, you're never going to be happy. Forget the best description I can give you, and it's great when I have a lacrosse stick with me, because I'll go up, I'll take that stick, and I'll say, is that a slash? You know, just tap the guy, maybe on his back or wherever it'd be illegal. Well, that's not a slash. And I'll usually do this in a training class. I then take the stick, and as hard as I can, I slam it on the table, which wakes the training class up. When I say, is that a slash? Well, yes. So I could hit you in the same spot and not be a slash or be a slash, depending on my subjective opinion of was that a slash or not.
Right.
And I talk about a tripwire. Is this a slash? No. Is this a slash? Yes. So somewhere along there, it's going to be, that was a slash. And that can vary based on how are you playing?
Intent.
Are you playing lacrosse or you're out there to hurt somebody?
Right.
And I can,
Right.
when I'm out there on the field, I can see your eyes.
Yes, you
I
can.
see if you see that pick and if you're going to run it over or not. Yeah, that's a real easy call. So it's all about keeping it under control. You want to let them play lacrosse, which involves stuff beyond the rules. I mean, I'm glad they changed the rules this year to accept the fact that midi lacrosse now is played with a stick on the back. When I first started officiating, there was a foul called cross-check hold, which defined that, but now that's how it's played, and that's fine. As long as you tell me how you want to call, I'll be happy to do that. But I will do it to keep the guys safe, keep the game fair, and most importantly, have fun. If you're not having fun out there.
In talking with several coaches that have had you, I've had you, the term fair seems to come up with a description of Bert Smith. Is that a fair?
Well, I
using the pun, is that a fair?
Yeah, no, I've always said, and I think this will be true of any ref you talk to. I've been reffing 10,000 games now over this span. I've never gone into a game caring who wins. Now what? I don't care. All I want to do is call a good, fair game and not make any mistakes myself. I've made mistakes, and I admit them. I've even written letters to coaches and say I'm sorry about that, and they like that when you do that.
They do. You're human.
Exactly.
I had a Clarkson game, and I was the only guy in the building that didn't see it traveling. And Mr. Fife was going to get all over me. And he said, "Did you?" I said, "I blew it. Didn't see the call." And he sat down because he's a good coach. I blinked.
If I didn't see
Exactly.
it, I'm really sorry, Coach. I heard it, but I didn't see it.
Last question. Your thoughts on today through the next 3 to 4, 5 years with officiating with.
I quite honestly tried to lengthen a little slower, and I back in January of this year I had an unfortunate fall right outside the door here where we had an ice storm, and it was go with ice. I slipped on the ice, I fell, landed right on my shoulder, and so I have a torn bicep tendon and a torn rotator cuff tendon now.
Oh my!
And I'm going through PT, so I'm getting better. I'll keep playing. I'm going to still keep playing the game. But I hope to still be reffing, maybe not doing college. The college game's getting really fast, and I feel I still bring enough value to the table in terms of game management and knowledge of the game and what to call, not to call, that I still bring value out there. But that time may pass, but I've always hoped to do the kids because there's a lot of officials that say, I don't like doing youth ball, To me, I love it. I love teaching them the game, because I'm teaching them out there, as much as I can. As
a sport, and I say this basically at the southern half of the peninsula from Grand Rapids, because this area's developed obviously well, and it's sort of going north as we move forward. Are we doing an okay job at the high school level officiating? I'm not talking about the amount of officials, but have we done a good job? Has Mhscla done a good job with whatever the other associations are with training?
It's hard. I'd say we can do better. We can certainly do better, but the guys have to be willing to put in the time. We have training classes all during the winter, and I was leading the training classes this past winter. And it got a little depressing that you have the same group of guys there at all the training classes. Well, I know they know what they're doing. They're the guys that show up. It's the guys that aren't showing up that really need the work. And we can do better, but it's not as bad as some coaches might think. I guess that would be the summary, is it's never as bad as they think, because when I say things about me, and I think I do a pretty good job. So.
Well, we appreciate all the work you've meant to high school lacrosse in Michigan. I certainly
we are high school focused here.
Celebrate your Hall of Fame 2009 induction, which is kind of the conversations.
And
It was a
thanks
real.
for doing this, Greg, for doing this filming with all the members.
I appreciate
a lot
it.
of my friends, a lot of people I know, and it's just great to watch.
It's been a labor of love, to say the least, and when you get a chance to meet somebody like you and have to sit down and talk to get to know you, you know somebody on the periphery. But as we were talking before the interview, this smaller group of guys that have been around a while, as they're touching base and experiencing things, it's been pretty terrific. But appreciate all your efforts,
Thank
and
you.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
That was great. Hopefully get some good.